Hey, business building warrior, welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. Today we're going to talk about books. Wow, books on Amazon. It hasn't been on my radar a whole lot the past several years. It kind of got tainted a little bit several years ago when Amazon started talking about all the storage fees and people were complaining and getting out of books. Well, they were doing it the wrong way. And here's what I mean. As I've learned recently for some people who are doing really well with just books is if you're buying the right books, using the right tools, you can have a hands-free, really nice income stream, never touching books. That's right. We're about to meet Joji, who runs bookmine.co. It's not .com, it's .co. Bookmine.co. There'll be a link in the show notes. You'll want to use coupon code JIM, J-I-M, all caps, to get $30 off this incredible software that gives you every day thousands of books that are being sold on Amazon right now at a price that's basically too low. Their software monitors 100 million books and then tells you every few minutes which thousands of books are selling way below where they probably should be based on historical data. And they've got a large community of people who are doing just books and doing really, really well. We're going to break it all down. We're going to talk about it. I ask all the hard questions. If you've still got questions, hop into our Facebook group, ask there. We'll bring Joji in and you can get the responses you need. But books are back on our radar. Very exciting opportunity to use a tool that basically scrapes for data, very similar to the way you've heard us talking about using 3P Mercury, where it filters through all the ASINs that you're monitoring so you can load as many products as you want into your 3P Mercury account, and the software will tell you what makes the most sense to sell right now. Well, in a very similar fashion, Joji and his team at bookmine.co, they're scraping the entire book category and telling you every day which books, thousands, and a new list every few minutes, thousands and thousands of titles that are underpriced right now that historically sell for far more. And he breaks it all down for us today. We get into ungating, and is this an opportunity for new sellers as well? You're going to love this guy's infectious energy. He's helped a lot of people do really well. He's come highly recommended to me, and I've talked to him at length, appeared on his podcast, which he mentions a little bit as well. He's a guy of high integrity. They've built a beautiful tool. There's a free version of it even that you can go check out. You're going to hear more about that as well, so you can get a taste for this model. You're going to enjoy this conversation. So let's get right into it. And I'm going to have Joji tell you all about his business model right now. So Joji, welcome to the podcast. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. So I got started in e-commerce back in 2015 as a college student, basically just learned how to sell stuff on Amazon. Long story short, basically just flipped textbooks, did that basically from 2015 to current day. I still do that. And yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I teach people exactly how to buy books on Amazon, resell them on Amazon, end up building a software called Bookmine. Hopefully we can talk about that a little later. But yeah, basically what I do is buy books on Amazon, ship them to a prep center. The prep center ships them to the Amazon warehouse. The customer buys it. And it's kind of just this hamster wheel of just buy more books. And that's what's been working for me.
That's one of the best summaries I've ever heard of someone describing their business and their e-commerce journey. Outstanding. Well, I had the honor of being on your podcast not too long ago. I had a really fun conversation. I'll stick a link in the show notes if people want to go revisit it. But I was impressed by your story, and I love the trajectory of what you're doing, what you're building, the community that's kind of assembling around this concept. And I just want to make an observation before I turn it back to you. And the first time we spoke, it started to sink into my mind anyway that what you've basically built is a 3P Mercury for the book world. That's kind of what I'm thinking, because it helps you identify and filter opportunities in a very creative way. So tell us about this, the book mining software that you've built and who it's for, and dig into that a little bit more with me.
Awesome. So like I mentioned, I created a YouTube channel about 4 years ago, and I was teaching people how to use Keepa, Keepa Deals, Keepa Product Finder to find books. And while a lot of people said that, hey, these videos are very helpful, still the number one challenge people had was, okay, well, how do I actually find the books in Amazon? Like, how do I find the good books? And I kind of, ended up meeting my now business partner and good friend, Victor Gallegos, who had a Facebook group doing sort of something very similar, teaching people how to do online book arbitrage. And we kind of put our heads together and we built Bookmine. And so what Bookmine does is look at Amazon's, it kind of changes, but around 100 million book category, and essentially look at the best books out of those 100 million, and then use basically data points on Keepa, such as like the last 3 months, 6 months selling average, and really look at what we call intrinsic value. So the thing is, there have been softwares in the past that focus on online book arbitrage, but what they focus on is exploiting the prime bump, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, especially if you come from books, which is this idea that a lot of the times merchant fulfill offers can be very cheap relative to what the actual used FBA buy box is. And that difference in price, which is really an inflated price, is called a prime bump. And so old software said, hey, we happen to find a book right now on Amazon. It's $40 in the used buy box, but you can buy it right on Amazon from a merchant fulfilled offer for $5. But what it was kind of missing was the idea that, well, the book isn't really worth $40. It just happens to be in the used buy box at $40 because of this really unique feature called a prime bump. And what Bookmine does is essentially look for books that are actually undervalued relative to historical sales. So the idea is, hey, this is a book right here that in the last 3 or 6 months has been selling between 40 and $60. And just for some reason right now, it's $15 on Amazon. And there's a number of reasons why that book can be sort of an anomaly at that point in time. But these are usually deals that won't be there for more than sometimes even a couple of minutes, maybe a couple of hours, maybe a couple of days, depending on what kind of book it is. But what Bookmine does is essentially look at all of Amazon's book category and just bring it down to about 4,000 to 5,000 books every 30 minutes that we think are well below intrinsic value. And therefore, you should at least look at them to potentially buy them to flip them back on Amazon.
So it's Amazon to Amazon flips for books.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Totally specialized in. And it's such a massive category. For those who aren't aware, most probably are, that's the original purpose of Amazon, was as a book flipping company. It's in their core of their business model. How many did you say? 100 million?
Yeah, it fluctuates because they always remove books from the catalog and add more books, but it's roughly around 100 million, give or take like 10 million as time goes on.
It's such an incredible, it makes total sense that there would be arbitrage opportunity there with book prices fluctuating. And you've built software that basically says, hey, we're going to keep an eye on things.
Yeah.
And build a list daily of what we think is worth paying attention to.
Yeah.
And then booksellers use the tool to spot opportunity. Yes, it's a brilliant business model. I'm a big fan of the concept for sure. I have a hard time seeing where the holes in it would be. There's a couple challenges I want to throw at you today, nothing too big, but I'm excited for people to have another income stream. If they're already familiar with the Amazon marketplace, man, this makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. What I really like about it is going back to what, a lot of your channels about and what you teach about, which is this idea of replens, right? Mm-hmm. The idea is there are plenty of books that are replenishable books. There's high school books, college textbooks, Christmas books, books about gardening, books about butterfly migrations. There's tons of seasonal opportunities. And if we get some time, I'd love to share some of those with you. But these are books that are very predictable, where you look at a Keepa graph and you expand it out beyond 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years, or even a decade. And you basically just see the used price do this every single year.
Here comes Christmas.
And so those are times in the off season.
Here comes, planting season, whatever. Right.
Exactly. Those are times where you can supplement your income, where it's, you don't necessarily only have to have one model, but if it's like, hey, I really understand that The Night Before Christmas is a book that's very cheap, January all the way through November. And then all of a sudden, The Night Before Christmas, it happens to be 3 or 4 times the price. It just thinking a little bit smarter and buying those books in the off season could really add another stream of income for you.
Fantastic. Well, I do want to get back to textbooks because I had a conversation since you and I talked and met last, and I want to dig into that a little bit. So don't let me forget. But talk to me about your typical user. What are they doing with the day to day? What's their routine look like? How intensive is this? Are you juggling books for a living now and filling your garage with books? Like, give me just the reality of what this looks like.
Okay, so our typical user is somebody who's actually 45 or older, and they're somebody who actually has a 9-to-5 job, and they're kind of just supplementing this and doing this as a side hustle. And we have them partner with one of two prep centers that we work with, Central Virginia Prep or Little Owl Prep. And essentially what they do is they use Bookmine to buy either seasonal books or all year round books, basically books on Amazon that we think are below their intrinsic value. They'll buy those, ship them right to the prep center, and the prep center will ship them to the Amazon warehouse. And then Amazon, as you know, through FBA will do the fulfillment. So our typical user is just somebody who has a 9-to-5 job. They just want to make a couple extra $1,000 per month. They just log on to Bookmine. And the goal that we give them is try to buy 10 books a day. Because if you can buy 10 books a day, especially at the price points that we're normally targeting, which is around a $50 plus average selling price, 10 books a day, that's, 3,600 books per year. I mean, you could easily build, 100K plus revenue business, making a couple $1,000s profit or more every single month. So that's kind of the typical user. They log on to Bookmine. It's basically just a showering of leads, 4 to 5,000 every 30 minutes. And then they get to go through and figure out, okay, well, which ones do I actually want to buy? Because in books, the margins are actually so great that often you really have to be picky about what you choose. A lot of people in our space are like 50, like, I don't want to touch anything that's below 100% ROI. Like if it's below 100% ROI, like I'm not even going to touch it. And the reason for that is just there's so many deals that you don't have nearly enough money to buy them all. So you do actually have to be smart and selective about which of those ones you want to buy. But 10 books a day is what we say. And if you could do that, you could really have a successful business.
Yeah, that's incredible. So you don't even have to do the fulfillment yourself, which I don't want people who are hearing this to miss that.
Yeah.
You don't have to have an extra room in your house that you fill up with dusty books and wait for them to sell.
Exactly.
What's the average turnaround time? If you're using it, because to be clear, you're using a prep center, you send all the books there. They send them to Amazon for you. Are you primarily FBA? Or you're doing some merchant fulfilling there too?
I do all FBA. Yeah.
All FBA. Got you. So that simplifies it even further. You're not having to pay storage at the prep center warehouse. And you're intentionally buying books that are going to turn over quickly.
Yep.
You don't want anything that's going to sit there, for example, 6-9 months, right? You get storage fees. What's your turnaround time that you're targeting?
Good question. So it really depends on what kind of style of sourcing that you do. Historically, if you go back on my YouTube channel, I'm actually somebody who really loves long tail flips, which are books that sell in the 6 month to 1 year mark. I could have crazy returns, 200, 300, 400, 500%. So we have all year round books, and we also have seasonal books. So what we tend to tell our users is, like, if you're thinking about seasonal books, think about a 3-month time window from when the season will actually be there. So for example, the January textbook season is going to be here in a month and a half. So right now you should be buying a bunch of college textbooks to be sending them to the prep center, then to the Amazon warehouse so that they can start selling. So in that case, the plan for the book is very, obvious. It's like buy it now, selling it in a month and a half in January. As far as the turnaround time, when you buy the book from Amazon, we're not buying it from Amazon, the company. We're buying it from third-party used sellers, mostly merchant fulfilled sellers.
Right.
And so depending on the merchant fulfilled seller, you can get the book at the prep center anywhere from between like 5 days to like 10 or 12 days. Once it gets to the prep center, depending on the volume that you're doing, they can have shipments out in 1 to 2 to 3 days. It really depends on kind of how much volume that you're doing. And then of course, it's just a sort of standard time from the prep center shipping inbound to Amazon. That can be a week to 2 weeks, depending on the receiving time and where it's going to the warehouse. So when you actually buy a book to actually arriving at the warehouse, you're probably looking at, on the really quick turnaround time, like 2.5 weeks to maybe 3.5 weeks. Somewhere in there is kind of what you're looking at. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how much time it takes. Yeah, for the book to be available for sale and then
exactly
sell. But like when I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to buy this product, and once it gets to Amazon, how long before it sells typically? Because I know, like when we're doing replens and we're teaching people how to find and flip new, and that's the distinction here from my mind, which we'll probably spend some time on, is we're talking about new products versus used products. The only used products, unless you're crazy, the only used products you should ever sell on Amazon is books.
Yeah.
Right? I've said that for years, and I've seen many, many reasons to back that up. So only new products. But with new products, we're saying, within 30 to 60 days, you want that thing to have moved.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to get into long-term storage fees. With books, and I know you've said there's a long tail and you get those, 6 and 10x ROI. It's, huge investment or a huge return on investment. But what's your typical? What are you looking for? If I'm making a decision about a book, is 4 or 5 months all right? Or are you? So
for me, my average is 5 months. And that's because, I have a mix of, again, long tail, fast turnaround books, seasonal books that were just really undervalued that I can buy now and just kind of flip almost immediately once you hit the warehouse. Okay. What we tell people is, if you're going the seasonal route, try to buy 3 months out. So in that case, if you are buying good books, which you should be because you're using Bookmine, then you should be thinking 3 to 4 months to sell that book. If you're going the long tail route or you're going all year round book, again, books in general just sell more slowly as a category than other products do. And so it could be 4 or 5 months. And again, I do have some examples. I can show you some books like, hey, I bought this in February of this year. That took 10 months to sell. Or I bought this last month and it sold, 1 month. But for me, on average, it's about 5 months. But again, the real question is like thinking about what is the actual cost to store the book long term. And this is like what a lot of people in the book space get really hung up about. It's like, I don't want it to sit there for 6 or 9 months. But you have to realize, you're looking at 5 to 7 cents per month per book. And for me, my average purchase price is 18. My average selling price is 59. So it's like the margin there to pay 6 cents per book, per month, even if it has to sit there for 8 months, is really a negligible fee to me. It's like I'd much rather
Okay.
have the book stored there at the Amazon warehouse than in my own
Yes.
house where it's
Yes.
making my wife crazy and the kids are
Yeah.
knocking it over. You know what I mean?
They
So
smell moldy and musty of
exactly.
too many old books. Okay, so you're dismantling one of the old standard, in my mind anyway, rules of thumb, which is if it doesn't sell quick, don't send it to Amazon. But you have dialed in, and the reason you're dismantling that argument in my mind right now as we're sitting here is because you've dialed in your ability to be far more certain about the eventual sale of that book. The way used books used to be done, probably before you were even in the game, or maybe very early on, was just buy anything and everything, send it in.
Yep.
It'll sell eventually.
Yep.
And so people were sending in thousands and thousands of books, and 30% of them would sell in the first year, and the rest are kind of sitting there, and they start collecting dust and
Yep.
storage fees. And then the
Exactly.
book industry blew, the opportunity got dismantled in many people's minds because, long-term storage fees killed books. Well, it's because you've got thousands of copies of books
Yep.
that just are sitting there collecting dust because you didn't have a tool like Bookmine
Exactly.
that referenced Keep a History and gave you a
Exactly.
high degree of confidence that this thing's going to be gone within 3 to 9 months with 85% certainty. I'm just pulling that number out, but
Yep.
that kind of feels like what you've built here. So long-term
Absolutely.
storage fees on 10, 15% of your inventory, who cares? It's
Exactly.
pennies per
And
volume.
couple things about that, going back in the beginning days when we were thinking about booksellers, you're thinking about people getting volume, getting tons and tons of books at the local thrift store, or maybe even Gaylords and truckloads. But the idea was this wasn't sort of cherry picked inventory. It was kind of just a sea of a bunch of books. And if you're somebody who goes to thrift stores, library sales, or you get bulk books, your average selling price is like $15, $17, 18, $20, like somewhere between like 12 and $20. So when you think of Amazon's fees relative to such a low average selling price, then yeah, adding 6 or 7 cents per book per month actually as a percentage takes up a large majority or large chunk of what your potential profit is. But the idea is like, if I know with a high degree of certainty, like you said, that 8 out of 10 times I'm going to be able to buy this book for 17 and flip it for 60, and it's going to take me 10 months, it's like, okay, well, I might pay $1. So instead of profiting $19 on that book, I might profit $18 on that book. But again, it's out of sight, out of mind. It's kind of, I don't have to store it here. It's at the warehouse. And that's the key, is what Bookmine is doing is bringing 100 million down to 4 to 5,000 every 30 minutes. So we're talking a needle in a haystack, right? A fraction of a percentage kind of a thing. So we're really pinpointing and cherry picking. It's like if you went to a Goodwill bins or library sale, thrift store, it's like imagine out of the thousands of books there, just the 10 of them kind of just popped out of the
little
the
beam
bookshelf
of
like
light
that.
leading you
Yeah,
that only
exactly.
you
Like
can see, right to the
buy
window.
and sell these 10 books, forget about the other 99% kind of a thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So the software really is the breakthrough.
Exactly.
And okay, cool. Well, let's tell people about the software. I probably mentioned it in the introduction as well, but I want folks who want to go check it out. So how can they get it? What's the discount you've set up for our community?
Awesome. So you can just go over to bookmine.co, or .co, not .com. So bookmine.co. And the cool thing is that we actually have a free plan called Bookmine Mini. And the thing is, we really believe in educating people and showing you that you can do this, get proof of concept without having to pay us a dime. So go through our free YouTube content, join Bookmine Mini. It's going to not give you 4,000 or 5,000 book leads every 30 minutes. They'll give you 50 book leads every 2 hours, but you can basically go on Bookmine Mini, and I'll share it here to you in a second. And essentially all the filtering, everything's the same as it is on Bookmine, but you can get proof of concept there. Now the paid plans is just for the software, $199 per month. And if you use code JIM, capital JIM, you get $30 off per month. So you can save a pretty decent amount on your Bookmine subscription. And then the highest tier plan actually comes with group mentorship, where Victor and I, he's the other co-founder, we basically mentor the group, a group mentorship every other week. And so we talk about, really important things like upcoming seasonal events, anything related to Amazon, any new changes. And yeah, is it okay if I show it?
Well, most people who consume our podcast content are listener only, like 90%. So any visuals I have to go to describe, but maybe this is your chance to practice your visual, your verbal representation of the visual, and just like, what am I going to see when I log in to
Okay.
bookmine.co. You said the coupon code is Jim, all caps, JIM, right?
JIM, all
Get 30
caps.
bucks a month off,
Yep.
bookmine.co. I'll stick that in the
Yeah.
show notes.
Yeah.
But if
Appreciate
someone
it.
gets a membership, it's either the
Yep.
50 or the full
Uh-huh.
package, what are you're going to log in and see what?
You're just going to see leads just right in front of your face. You're going to see, most importantly, the keep a graph, because what we use to make a sound decision is historical selling data. So we're not actually super interested in what the actual current price of the book is right now or what the current live data says. What we're interested in is what's the track record? What's the historical selling data show? And so again, what Bookmine is going to do is find those books on Amazon that are essentially anomalies right now. Hey, this is a book that in the last 6 months has been selling between 45 and 60. How do we know that? Because the lowest use price has fluctuated between 45 and 60 with multiple sales rank drops, which tells us that, hey, if you wanted to buy the book and you wanted to buy it in used condition, you had to spend between 45 and 60. And there's actually recorded sales because the sales rank is improving multiple times throughout that 6 month period. Hey, guess what? It also, for some reason, happens to be 1832 right now on Amazon. And that's actually the cheapest price it's ever been in the last 2 years. So you should strongly consider potentially buying that book, because there might only be 1 or 2 copies at $18.32, and then it shoots right back up to 45 bucks, kind of a thing. So when you log into Bookmine Mini, again, which is free, or log into the paid book version of Bookmine, you're finding a bunch of books. So you'll see their actual the actual image of the cover of the book, but then you'll see the snapshot of the keep a graph and a 1 year time shot, and either see, wow, this is a book that literally just dropped in price right now. It's been selling for well over that. And then, of course, you'll find tons of seasonal books as well. Kind of going back to the best visual I can give you is a mountain. Like when you look at a mountain, you can clearly see a shoulder and a peak. And on both sides of that, you see sort of a valley or you see a trough where the use price is much lower. And if you then expand the keeper graph, you can kind of see, hey, this is a Christmas book, the night before Christmas, that since 2015, every year it's gone from $5 up to $32, the lowest use price. And it's done that year after year after year after year after year. So the idea is we're really focusing on pattern recognition and the idea that, hey, you're buying books that are undervalued. You're buying books below their intrinsic value and then selling them, most importantly, for what they're actually worth. And that's how you make money.
Yeah, phenomenal description. Yes, and I
Thanks.
completely understand it. I think there may be a few folks who are completely brand new to Amazon selling listening to this today. That what's Keepa? What's an ASIN? Right. And if that's you, I would encourage you, get into our free community, our free Facebook group at silentjimdotcom. We've got $7 courses, $39 courses that can get you up to speed. But once you know the basic terminology, this really is a special opportunity that you're describing here, Joji. I think it caps on nicely to anything that anyone's already doing.
Yeah.
In regards to e-commerce. You didn't tell me, maybe you did and I missed it. I don't think you did. Like how many hours per week? It can take, let's say I want to buy 10 books a day. You said, what's that going to take me? An hour if I'm good? Half an hour if I'm good at this?
Yeah. I mean, if you're a beginner and you're just starting out, it could take you a couple of hours just because it's a lot of data reading, right? You're looking at a lot of keeper graphs. If you're somebody who is a beginner, not well-versed in reading keeper graphs, you've maybe only seen a few dozen in your lifetime, then certainly it's going to take a lot more time because, even though I like to say it's incredibly easy, I mean, there are definitely nuances and intricacies, just things that you have to learn through trial and error. And so, yeah, if you're just beginning out, it might take you a couple hours to pick out 10 books that you want to buy. For me, I've been doing this for a decade, right? Actually, my first book that I bought on Amazon to resell it back on Amazon was actually late 2015. So I've been doing it for a decade. I've looked at easily hundreds of thousands of keeper graphs. So for me, like I can do a live stream on our Bookmine YouTube channel and I can do like sourcing $100 potential profit in 30 minutes and literally just go through Bookmine, go through a couple pages, find a bunch of books, talk to the actual chat and be like, hey guys, here's a book right now. It's priced at $13. It's been selling for 42 to 55 in the last 6 months. You should strongly consider buying that book. So if you are somebody who's experienced, like once you get to, I would say the 1 year, 2 year mark, yeah, you could log in and get 10 books pretty easily. Not to mention the fact that kind of going back to your business model with the whole replen model is like over time, as you start collecting your own data and you start selling seasonal books or you start selling all year round books and here's actual data for a book that you've been able to repeatedly flip, you'll get to a point 2 years, 3 years down the road where maybe most of your buys are even just replenishable books. They're not even actively sourcing. But if you're someone who's just beginning, again, just go to Bookmine Mini. You can get 50 free book leads. And I would say every 2 hours, just pop on there, look at, the first 1 or 2 pages of Bookmine. And again, it's going to take you more time in the beginning, but it's just like anything, it's just a learning curve. as you get better, as you watch more content, more tutorial videos that, we give to you, I mean, you should be able to get in and out, 30 minutes, 45 minutes and 5 and 10 books pretty easily.
Outstanding. Well, here, let me give you a little breakdown of the stuff I want to hit before I let you go so I don't
Awesome.
forget. Okay. And I'm making myself a note right now, but gating.
Yeah.
One thing I want to talk to you, like new sellers coming in, how many, and I know you hear them like, oh, I'm gated for everything. Like, let's talk about that for just a minute.
Yeah.
And then textbooks. I don't want to get away from that one. Okay. And then I want to hear about this this event that you have and
Awesome.
how people can kind of plug into your community a little bit. So I want to hit those three, and we'll probably bunny trail one or two directions off that. But that's my agenda for the rest of our time. Okay, that I want to hit as a minimum.
Okay.
But let's start with textbooks. Okay.
Okay.
Because I just had a conversation with Jeff Schick. Do you know Jeff by any chance?
I do know Jeff.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know him personally. I know of Jeff Schick.
Sure. He's kind of our top of the list, preferred all things Amazon policy, legal, that sort of thing, right? And I do many segments with him once per week as part of his podcast. And he says, here's some things sellers need to be aware of. Literally 2 or 3 days ago, I had a conversation with him. And the mini segment we did was, be careful with textbooks. Here's why, right? And you could probably give the same speech that he gave me, but I do want to spend some time on it because my instinct is that there's a lot of opportunity there, but it's also one of the most heavily counterfeited products on Amazon. So I guess my question to you, and I wish he was here to answer, but I think I know what he'd say, is if I buy a textbook on Amazon from a third-party seller, not from Amazon itself,
right,
but from a third-party seller selling on Amazon, am I covered if it turns out that was counterfeit, if I flipped it? Have you run into that? Yes or no? And how do you prevent counterfeit? Because, and then I'll turn it over to you in just a moment. I know, I can't remember what countries he named. It was like Bangladesh or something, wherever they're cranking these things out in bulk and shipping them here illegally just to get them into the used book market and make cash flipping them, right? How do you avoid that?
Yeah. Well, first thing I want to say that the fact that there are counterfeits just shows how much profit and margin there is in book flipping, right? Because the only reason why you would counterfeit anything is because there is monetary value to be gained. So that's a very interesting thing. I also appreciate, and this is what I do for my channel as well, is I don't want to just bring anyone on if I haven't vetted it. And this is the most important thing, right, to your audience, because you don't want to lead them down, a trail where they could potentially get their account suspended or, there could be issues. So I really appreciate that.
You want to shine the light in all the dark corners before we go into a room, right? And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with this one. Yeah,
exactly. And I appreciate that. I try to do the same for my audience as well. So definitely the number one challenge with selling books is textbooks. And the reason for that, as you mentioned, is because they can be heavily counterfeited. And what you want to look out for are books that are the most heavily counterfeited. And most people are actually gated in what's called the popular textbook category. So what Amazon has actually done as a result of, the last, 8 years of sort of counterfeit textbooks being a very kind of nasty sort of, thing, is they've essentially grouped together all the books that have been, the most problematic, or books that have sort of been test bought most likely, or I'm not sure if these are all books that have been actually in lawsuits, but they've essentially grouped the most popular textbooks together and put them in the popular textbook category, which virtually nobody can actually sell. So as a seller, you're more than likely not even going to be able to sell the overwhelming majority of books that are problematic or could be problematic. Beyond that, what we try to tell our users is there's a tool on a website called BooksRun. They have a BooksRun counterfeit calculator. And essentially what you can do is run an ASIN or an ISBN of any textbook through their catalog. And although it's not 100% accurate and it doesn't guarantee that it is or isn't a counterfeit textbook, what essentially that they have done is collected a list of books that have been in lawsuits. They collected a list of books that are the most problematic. And they'll tell you this is a book that very likely could be counterfeit. And we tell our community, hey, if it says likely to be counterfeited, very likely to be counterfeited, just go ahead and ignore it. Again, in the vast majority of cases, you can't even sell it anyways because you're already gated by Amazon because they don't want to deal with this issue because Amazon's gone through a massive headache because Amazon doesn't want to get sued for this, right? Yeah. So going to the most important question though is like, okay, if you are selling books on Amazon, what is the protection? Like, do you have an invoice? So if you buy a book on Amazon, and this isn't just any textbook, it's just any books. If you buy a book on Amazon, you have both an Amazon order ID and an Amazon invoice. And so if you do get an IP complaint or you do get a counterfeit claim, all that you need to do is when you appeal the claim is say, here's the Amazon order ID and here's the Amazon invoice, which are actual little check boxes that you can select in the appeal claim and go, okay, here's the actual order ID. And I personally haven't had this because I haven't got counterfeit claims since 2021, and we can talk about that. But since 2021, I haven't had any. So I haven't myself been able to prove this, but we've had members in our community that have got an IP complaint or a counterfeit claim, and they were just basically asked to supply, that they got the book from an authentic source. They gave the Amazon order ID within hours, gone. So
nice. And just to get into the weeds a little bit for those who really care about this, and they may even be anticipating the question I'm about to ask. In those cases where the Amazon invoice was sufficient to shut the IP challenge down, had the book been ordered directly from Amazon as the seller, or was it a third-party seller? Do you happen to know? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, these are from third-party sellers.
Okay,
correct.
I would assume
because we rarely buy
so.
books directly from Amazon. Yeah.
It's
so
rare.
in every case that I've seen it, which has been about 7 cases, so we're 7 for 7 so far. Every case has been, because I asked the person, I'm like, would you mind sharing with me what the book was? In every case, it's been from a used third-party seller.
That's the best case scenario answer that I was really hoping for here, because it really does leave the gates wide open. Check that third party resource. And what was the name of that website again?
It's called Books Run.
Books Run?
Yeah, Books Run. And you can just type in Books Run counterfeit calculator.
Okay.
And you'll be able to find that. Again, the number one pro is that the overwhelming majority of the highly likely to be counterfeit textbooks, you can't even sell.
You're not even gated in anyway. Yeah, I understand that.
So
yeah,
that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and then when Jeff was giving his big, scary disclaimer, it was for people who were buying books from third-party websites or from, bargain bin, or they're going to a college campus and buying up all the used books there. He didn't mention buying them on Amazon, and that makes a lot of sense. Where, hey, just flip them from Amazon right back to Amazon. Covered.
Yeah,
the person who sold you the book's the one's in trouble if it turns out it was counterfeit, not you for having bought it and then followed the prompt right there on the screen. Hey, are you done with this book? Do you want to sell it? Like, Amazon, you told me to sell it, right? Amazon, right there. I've noticed it. Like, hey, you have one like this? You want to sell your copy? Right? Like, I was just following the prompt.
If we go further down the rabbit hole, there's a man named Chris Bradley. He does basically textbook wholesale, but there was a consortium called EPEG that was formed as a result of all of the major publishers doing all these test buys and going through O&Z law. And essentially, there is actually a channel that you can go through where even if you did buy books on other websites, as long as you have the information from the person that you bought them from, and you have a clear way to identify that, hey, this book actually came from this source. If you work through EPEG and you have an identifying system on your books, you actually can buy books literally from anywhere, as long as you can show that as long as when you do get a copy of a book that you think is likely to be counterfeited, that you send it in to actually get reviewed by basically the publishers. And you can essentially work with them to be able to buy books from literally any website. I mean, that definitely requires a higher level of organization and systemization. But the idea is that if you actually work with EPEG and you're not trying to, sell counterfeit textbooks, and you are, when you get a book that you believe is counterfeit, are sending it to them to be inspected, they will actually inspect them themselves. And as long as you can tell them, this is the source, this is exactly where it came from, what they're more interested in is the chain. They're more interested in where is it being produced and going down that rabbit hole. So there's plenty of ways to really be safe if you want to be that systematized. But in this case, just buying it directly on Amazon, I mean, you have the Amazon order ID, you buy it directly on the Amazon website. I mean, you can kind of turn it back on their head. It's like, you're accusing me of selling a counterfeit. I bought it on your website. So you're telling me Amazon's, third parties disperse. But
the reason this is an interesting topic is because there have been cases where you can buy with the intent to flip an Amazon to Amazon flip a new product, not books, where if you buy from a third party, you could still be and are still held responsible for having flipped a counterfeit good. So it sounds like here's another example where the rules for books are a little different than the rules for everything else, because one of the rules of thumb I have is if you're doing an Amazon to Amazon flip, meaning you're buying something from Amazon with the intent to flip it back on Amazon, a new product, and you buy from a third party merchant fulfilled seller, you're taking some risk. Now I know people who do it, but there's significant risk there. I've heard some cases where that went wrong for the flipper. With books, it sounds like you've got more coverage there. So not only is that the only used product I would ever suggest that you sell on Amazon books, uh, you're pretty safe buying from just about anyone, it sounds like, and flipping it
Yep.
right back on Amazon if it's a
Yep.
book. With other products, that's not so much the case. And that's where we're
Yep.
kind of off into the weeds a little bit. We can dial it back in. We're talking about the fraction of 1%, here
Yep.
kind of stuff. The opportunity is huge, obviously. And you've given us some incredible resources. We've kind of
Thanks.
talked about the gating thing a little bit,
Yep.
but from the perspective, you're gated in all the products that might be, all the books that might be counterfeit. But what about the new seller who comes in and like, I am gated in everything, not just the
Yep.
dangerous stuff, but do you have those people and what do you tell them? I know what we tell them and we get them through that. Is there anything
Yep.
you do for new sellers in that regard?
Yeah, great question. We definitely have people who are new. They've never opened an Amazon seller account. They get really excited. They watch all the videos and then they open up their Amazon seller account, like, let's go, I'm ready to go. And like you mentioned, they can't sell the majority of books. And so what we tell them to do is anything that you can sell, just try to get it to Amazon. And in this case, that could just mean books around your house, anything that you're actually able to sell. Like, even though at this stage you don't technically have an invoice, you don't technically have don't have an Amazon order ID, but if you have books lying around that you can sell, send them in, because really what the goal here is you just need to get some traction with Amazon. You just need to get some level of some number of sales with Amazon, and really the harder you go, the more books that you can get in that you can actually sell, the more quickly the rest of the category will open up. And so that's what we tell people. If you're on Bookmine Mini, if you're on Bookmine, just buy the books that you can actually sell, send those in, just continue to do that. And eventually, if you are pretty serious about this and you stay consistent, the category will open up pretty fast for you in the books.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. I love that answer. And that's pretty similar to what we say. Actually, interestingly enough, I think you like this. One of the things we tell new sellers is Amazon doesn't trust you yet.
Yeah.
You're gated in just about everything, but try selling a few used books.
Yeah, there you go.
That'll get the wheels turning. And they'll come back like, well, I can't even sell some of the used books I have. Well, sell the ones you can sell.
Yep.
Or get into, we have some of the common categories where you're more likely to be ungated, like pets, not pet food, arts and crafts, and you can just scan a few items, sell them at $1 loss each, get a few dozen transactions. Amazon sees you in a completely different light after you've had a few dozen transactions of
Absolutely.
anything. I don't care if you're profitable or not. Just, okay, this person says they're sending in the product X. They actually sent it in. The customer didn't complain. All right, this isn't a scam. Because you talk to the people who work at Amazon and they're kicking thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of scammers, sellers a day off their site.
That's crazy.
People just coming in with all these crazy. I remember stories like, it's been a while since these kind of things were even possible, but people would say, hey, I've got 50 brand new TVs to sell, half price, merchant fulfilled as a new seller. They'd make 50 sales. Amazon would send them the money. They would make up fake delivery codes.
It's crazy.
To appease the system, get paid, and then vanish. Customers never got a TV, obviously, right? So that's what Amazon's fighting. And they've built systems now to really help that. But until Amazon trusts you, you're going to be gated in a lot of stuff, including books. So sell whatever you can sell to prove to them you're a real person with a real address and a real ID that matches the address on your mail. Like now you're going to move further much faster. We get very similar answers.
And would you agree with me that if you are committed and you are serious about this, it really isn't that difficult, right? It just takes some level of consistency and just go in and put in the work. So, use books. Great way to do it. And some people give me pushback like, yeah, but you tell me you have to buy it on Amazon. So you have the Amazon order invoice. And the idea is like in the beginning, you have nothing to risk. You haven't proven that you've even been able to make money on Amazon yet. So like in the beginning, right, you have the least amount of risk, get some books in there, let the rest of the category open. And especially even if you're going to go to other categories outside of books as well, it's just probably the best way to get started, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love it as a new seller model.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to get the wheels turning. And I think there's a lot of good synergy between the people in your community who could say, okay, wow, wait, because we've got, I don't know how many multiple 7-figure sellers there are in your community, but I've got to imagine, we've matured this business model to the point where we've got several multiple 7-figure, fully automated, but that's hard to get to. That's a long journey. Where do I start? Well, sell a few books. And by the way, that might turn into a few extra $1,000 a month in your pocket for really not doing a whole lot more than a few minutes of work per day. And that could be a good foundation that leads you into right?
Exactly.
There's a lot of synergy here, and we don't have a tool that I've ever heard or seen that does what bookmine.co. Use the
Yeah.
code JIM all caps to get $30 off. Um, I haven't seen a tool that does that. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see the synergy between your community and ours. I think there's a lot of people who could be hopping the fence and doing both, and
Right.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'm excited as well.
Very good. Well, let's talk about that event you just had. Was that your
Awesome.
first event, or
No,
have you?
that was actually our second year running
That's
Books
right.
and Beyond. Yep.
Yeah.
So every year we run, well, I say every year. The last 2 years, right? The inception was 2024. We run a conference called Books and Beyond Con. It's held in Las Vegas, Nevada at Binion's Hotel. And essentially what we do is bring together the best booksellers really in the space. That includes very large booksellers like World of Books and Thrift Books. I mean, these are, book selling accounts that do many, many millions of dollars in transactions every year. So we bring them, as speakers as well as sponsors. And then we bring people who do, baby bulk. Maybe they're only selling a couple million per year. We bring people who do online book arbitrage like myself. Like, I don't even sell a million. I sell about 300,000 in revenue per year, make about $100,000 profit on that. So again, I'm more interested in like how much money am I making rather than like what's the revenue. But we have people who also do thrift stores and library sales. So we basically bring together booksellers from all walks of life, starting at thrifting the book in the local community, people doing online book arbitrage or cherry picking, baby bulk, and then all the way to the top of the food chain, people doing thousands of transactions every single day. And so it's a great time. Again, it's in Vegas. We have over 100 people come out, really tight knit community. And kind of what Jim said, even though we have a lineup of speakers and we have workshops and panels, everyone says it's just being in the room and meeting people from all walks of life. It really, motivates you and energizes you. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm excited to do it again next year. It'll be in October, October 6th through 8th, again in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Nice. That's exciting, man. Yeah, I love the power of a live event. Was Bill Martlink part of your event?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was a speaker, and World of Books was also a sponsor. Correct.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Good dude, man. He spoke at our event too, and
Yep.
had a lot.
Really good
I had
dude.
him on the podcast here a while back. Got me reinterested in books again.
Right.
For a while, I was like, yeah, anything but books.
Yeah.
And Bill brought me back around. We actually ran into each other at Accelerate. Yeah, that's the jacket.
You're repping the shirt right now. Yeah.
Yeah, he came up to me. I didn't know who he was, but he knew who I was, and we had a great conversation and kind of connected. And yeah, up there among the most transactions ever on Amazon. I mean,
Crazy.
it's like, yeah, so a good guy to know. And
Yeah.
he got my attention back on books, and as have you. So and it has been, again, to repeat, for brand new sellers saying, I just can't find anything to sell. Like, sell a few used books. I got a rack of them right over here. Like,
exactly.
grab a few off that you're not going to use, throw them out there, $5-$6, whatever. Who cares? Get some transactions turning. That'll get the gates opening. And I have heard, just as a story to share with you, that we had one new student come through. They said they sold like 15 or 20 used books, and suddenly the whole catalog opened up to them in a way like just.
I hear very similar things.
They were ungated in everything suddenly, practically.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, it's a good way to get the wheels turning. So we had a little bit of something for everyone today. Was there anything else on your mind? Any questions you wished I'd ask you today before we wrap this up? I think it's a great interview. Was there anything else you're hoping to get into?
Yeah. I mean, I'll just keep it brief, but I was thinking maybe a question you'd ask is why books? Because people, when I go to other events, I go to the Miami Sellers Conference. I go to, when I go to events, people go, oh, that's cool. You start with books. Most people see that as, oh, this is a beginner seller. And I kind of want to talk about like, why did I stay in books? And the reality is that just through multiple stages of my life, books have changed my life, not just reading them, but actually selling them. And so we didn't really get into the story too much, but in college, I was able to cash flow my bachelor's and my master's degree and graduate without any debt just from flipping college textbooks. So that was like the first way that books changed my life. And so, I went to school to get a master's degree to become a high school chemistry teacher, which I did for the next 7 years. And over those 7 years, I just did this online book arbitrage. And the money that I made from flipping books, it wasn't like I was making millions of dollars, but it was enough for my wife and I to live frugally so that we invested both of our entire teaching income. So essentially, we were stocking away, over $100,000 every year into the stock market through retirement accounts, like maxing out, a Roth IRA, 457, 403B, putting money in taxable accounts. So books have enabled us to essentially build a life that we want. And so when people ask me, why do you stick with books? Why didn't you go out of books? It's because it's just has changed my life too many times for me to be like, okay, I need to venture out anywhere else. I'm like, the grass on this side has been incredibly green to me. I'm very grateful for it. And so the reason why I created the YouTube channel was to help other people, because I'm like, wow, books are changing my life, guys. And this is basically how I've been able to do it. And anyways, that's the last part that I just wanted to say, is that I love books for that reason. Not only the content, reading them has changed my life, but also just selling them. So
I love it. And just to make an observation, yeah, I'm a huge fan of the law of specialization. If
yep.
you're known as the books guy,
Yeah,
right, that's not a bad thing. That hasn't
not at all.
It's going to open up so many doors of opportunity that otherwise wouldn't have been presented to you. If you tried to be the I know everything about e-commerce guy, that's too general. The
Yeah,
books guy, that means now you can have an event and you can have sponsors and you can
exactly.
build relationships with those sponsors, and it's going to take you into other arenas of opportunity because you're the specialist. You don't want to be the generalist. You want to be the specialist. And so that you've got some good career advice from somebody along the way that specialize, be known for the one thing, be the top 1%, top fraction of a percent at what you do, which is what you've accomplished. So you've got a lot of opportunities ahead of you. You've got a good head on your shoulders about this whole industry. Man. You're operating with integrity, and it's fun. If you were a stock, I'd be buying some for sure. Right.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited for the trajectory that you're on. Yeah. Well, were there you handled that question brilliantly. Is there anything else that you were hoping to get into briefly before we wrap this one up? I'm just giving you a little more time to speak to the listeners with whatever's on your mind, or we can wrap it up there. I think it's been a great episode. And we'll remind them one more time about the website too.
Yeah. Just again, I had the pleasure of interviewing Jim on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is Joji Davenport, just my name. I would highly recommend watching that video, because in the interview, I try to talk a little bit more about Jim's journey, about the legacy, about what he's building, rather than just necessarily selling on Amazon for my own kind of selfish reasons, just to kind of learn a little bit more about, how you, Jim, have built this over 2 decades. So I think that's an awesome listen. I think it's just a continuation of, extension of the conversation we had there. And then, going back to Victor, again, my business partner and good friend, and I, who built Bookmine, we did it to help people out. And that's why we have a version of the software that's free to anyone. It's called Bookmine Mini. And you just go to bookmine.co. You can sign up for Bookmine Mini. It's going to give you 50 book leads every 2 hours. So again, you can get proof of concept. You can go buy the first few books that you without paying us anything, see that it actually works, flip books profitably, really, engage in our YouTube content, learn how the business model works. But yeah, again, I did want to say that if you did end up joining Bookmine, obviously take advantage of Jim's coupon, because that's an immediate savings, and that's going to help you buy some more books per month. So coupon code JIM. But that's all I have. I just want to say thanks for the opportunity. It's a lot of fun.
Great work, man. Great work. I'm excited for you. I think you're going to get some good people from our community hopping over there, checking things out. And awesome. I'd love to hear from anyone who sees this interview. Give me your feedback. Let me know what you think and how it goes. And, because I see these two communities in a very symbiotic relationship where, mutually beneficial arrangement here for sure. So, because I don't do many episodes like this, I'd say 90% of our episodes are interviews with successful, proven Amazon course students, and the rest of them are instruction on how to do the things we teach around here. So it's pretty rare that we bring someone in with an outside idea, outside tool, but you more than earned that position.
Thank you so much.
Work you've done. Absolutely. It's my pleasure, my honor. Hope to have you back again sometime soon. Okay.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thanks, Joji. For the listeners today, like I just said, this is an unusual episode. If you're new around here, scroll back in time. You can hear a whole bunch of success stories, testimonials, and instruction. We've, like Joji mentioned earlier, we've done over 1,000 episodes of this show, which blows my mind. But we've learned a few things over the years, and we've learned that you love to be inspired and encouraged and hear from real people building real businesses. You love real practical instruction. That's what our show is all about. So follow us, leave us a review, hop over, check out Joji's channel. There'll be a link to that and all the offers made today and the different software and tools. It's all in the show notes. And we'll have another great episode for you very soon. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Bye for now.